We have 3 vendors with the ShapeConnect platform that have unique perspectives and kind of land in unique areas within construction businesses. So we both have accounting, we have project management, and then we also have premium and advanced reporting. We hope to be done here by right around noon. Hopefully won't take up too much of your time, but we appreciate you guys joining us and just wanted to go through this here real quick. So to start with, so what do? I work as a Chief Information Officer within ShapeConnect and also for organizations that kind of need that CIO, Director of Technology role where they're looking to maybe connect their business and put together a software stack, but they don't know where to start. And I can come in and we can come in and help achieve that through the vendors we have on the platform, and then also be able to know that everything can work together then going forward. We also have, James, if you want to give a quick introduction to yourself here, that would be great.
Sure. My name is James Stang. I'm a solutions architect with SWK Technologies. Primarily, I work with ERP platforms, specifically the one called Acumatica, which we'll look a little bit at today. And happy to be here. You'll see that Acumatica works with folks like yourselves. It's a business management solution focused on accounting first and everything like that. But we'll get into it before too long. So thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, James. I'm going to kick it over to Zach next to just give a quick introduction of what he does over there at JobTread.
Yeah, so my name is Zach Spencer. I'm the Director of Business Development at JobTread. So JobTread is a platform to help you make sure to manage your jobs, complete them on time and on budget. So it helps building estimates, job costing, invoicing, keeping track of all your schedule and your tasks within that job as well. So it's an end-to-end platform, and I'll be doing a high-level walkthrough of it as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Zach. We're going to move it over to Brennan now. Brennan, what do you guys do over there at Pernovos?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So yeah, Pernovos is a construction intelligence platform. So we effectively help contractors to make sense of all the data that they're connecting and collecting on both projects and company level across their different applications, to assess some of the gaps in their reporting and forecasting, and basically give them insights into new workflows that can help drive efficiency to not only protect their profits, but make sure that their cash flow is in alignment with their goals. So.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So one of the impetuses of why we are doing this connected business was we recently surveyed a community we're a part of, the Association of Subcontractors here in the Chicagoland area. And some of the top challenges that they came out of with was job costing being a major issue for them. Some of them are using Excel for bidding and struggling to obtain accurate financials. And these were the top 3 themes that came out of that survey of over 50 organizations. And so we wanted to try and put together a toolkit that can fix some of these issues. Excel, we have an issue there with siloed data. Every Excel file lives by itself. And so you're not unable to report across all of those. And that's where an Acumatica can come in, or a JobTread, or even a Pernovos, be able to consolidate some of that in, and these advanced tools that kind of put all this data together and keep it out of this one bucket. We do ask, I'm going to throw into the chat, or you can use the QR code on the screen. We have a business benchmarking survey that we'd love for the attendees to take here. If you can, that would be great while we are going through this, but there's the link for that. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of some of that broken data and what's out there and what we've seen. And so some people ask, what is broken data? It's a mix of inaccurate, incomplete data, just lives in different spots, moves around. Nothing ever is really connected, or nothing ever really talks to each other. And so you're always going back to a single Excel file for an estimate that you did way back when. How does it happen? It happens when you don't have, you're growing your business and you're constantly just adding tools, and you don't really have a strategy around what tools to add and when to add them. When do you move off of QuickBooks? When do you move off of Excel into a project management tool? When do you move into some more advanced reporting because the current platforms aren't providing you with what you need? That's when the data starts to become fractured and broken within a company. And then one of the implications of that, according to IBM, they found that $1.3 trillion is cost across America in broken data. And what does that look like? What does it feel like when you have multiple software tools that are all over the place? This is just a snapshot of an organization, and just all these tools are everywhere and nothing's talking to each other. What does it sound like? I don't know if any of these comments these are real world comments that we got from a survey that we did within an organization about a year and a half ago. Trouble tracking profitability, tough to get accurate information. Data isn't always in sync between Salesforce and QuickBooks. These are the things that if your employees are telling you those types of things, that you want to be able to listen to them and know that maybe you do have some of this broken data in there. So what does it cost? We talked about that before. These are just some of the areas that 5 things that we found within the companies that we've been working within. We found over $100,000 in software spend that was completely unnecessary within a company. We've found a $200,000 accounting error. James, I'll give props to Acumatica on that one. After we imported all of the data and went through it, after they were using a very disconnected platform, we were able to uncover that there was a $200,000 accounting error that wasn't even just like a balance sheet thing. It was actually a $200,000 revenue issue that needed to be corrected. Incorrect spending, lack of accurate job costing is a big one. Again, Acumatica helps with that, as does JobTread. And then so does Pernovos, in the sense of being able to report on all of that back together. And you'll see some of that here in a minute. And then just employee frustration. People don't know where to go. They don't know what platform to go into. They're using bits and pieces. It just doesn't work very well. So that's what, from a cost perspective, what we found out there. So how do you resolve it? You just simplify and use connected simplicity. Each one of these tools is able to connect different areas of their business and are able to work together then to be able to provide a full-on product out there that kind of, each of them have their own specialty area. So you know where to go to get that data. Lastly, again, what is this? The connected business. This is some of the stuff that we're going to go through here, and I'm going to turn it over to the guys here in a second. But their accounting systems, we're going to look at that. We're going to look at the project management, and then we're going to look at what premium reporting does. So with that said, I'm going to turn this over to James, who's going to talk through when an ERP system is needed, what it does, what does a modern one look like. James, I'll go ahead and let you go, and I'll stop my share here.
Okay, I think I'm sharing. I'll confirm that if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Mark. So this is James again with SWK, and this is the platform we'll be looking at is Acumatica. But before I start navigating here in a second, which I will certainly do, some of the things that you'll see in an ERP solution, obviously we try to think of it as like a single source of truth. And so we're looking to not just track your projects in here, perhaps even before you win them, we can set them up as quotes and things like that. But we're tracking your projects in here, your schedule of values, your cost budgets, absolutely. And then the items that you're tracking against those cost budgets. So any of those commitments that we're going to see in here between purchase orders and subcontractor agreements, we can track inventory in here, not just ordering it, but also the levels of inventory in multiple warehouses. All that good stuff is what you'd find in a solution like Acumatica. There's a phone application that we'll look at just for a brief minute, given the time. And that also is the same solution that we'll be looking at today. So it's no additional cost or anything like that. It's all included in the platform. And that's actually one of the best things about Acumatica is that they actually price it so that it's unlimited users, so that we don't limit who can access the system. The idea is that everyone has access to the system itself. And so there's no questions as to what report was run. It was sent across emails or things like that. Everyone can just access it directly, which is probably one of the best pieces about it. As you can see here, I've already logged into the system, and what you're looking at is what we call a dashboard. This one happens to be called Construction Project Manager. That's fine. It's one of maybe 20 or so that come out of the box. And dashboards are things that you obviously will see more later in today's conversation, but it's one of those things that always evolve, right? And just to give a quick glimpse as to how this one might work, this is giving us some basic KPIs, showing us some projects that are profitable or not, or some tasks that are overdue. So we do have task management in the system where you can assign yourself tasks or follow-up tasks to your peers at your company that they can follow up on and so on. Other things that you might see in here would be some tables of whatnot of data. So it might be approvals, for example. So up here on the top right corner, the person logged in might have to approve some change orders or some purchases or time cards, whatever it might be. You can track some things like change orders down here on the bottom and so on. And eventually you'll see just basic reporting here as well. So like a summary type of table on the bottom right, where you can see the estimates for some projects and cost dates and committed costs and so on. Any of these things you can click on and it will drill down for you. The rest of the navigation is pretty straightforward as well. So we've got your dashboard when you first log in, and then obviously all the different screens on the left side. And that, of course, will depend on what license you have with Acumatica. If there's certain things that don't interest you, if you don't have inventory in your organization, you won't have inventory in Acumatica. But then as a user, we'll certainly have user roles in the system so that your everyday, maybe field technician or your everyday purchasing agent or whatever it might be, only accesses the modules that make sense for their role. Obviously, I've logged in as more or less as like a business owner or an administrator, and so I have access to all of these here. But the feel is the same regardless, right? So when you expand one of these things, if I were to look at purchasing today, I just more or less click on that menu, and this kind of gives you an idea of what exists within that workspace. Okay. And so that's how you navigate. Now, if you're new to Acumatica, then certainly you don't know where these things are, right? Obviously, I've got some that are marked as favorites, which is nice, but you won't know where these are as a new user. And so one of the neatest features in Acumatica would be the search here on the top of the screen. And so you can actually search throughout the menu by just searching right here on the top toolbar. So if I wanted to set up some projects today, as I start typing that word, it will give me the menu results that are on the left side of the screen as I type that word. So as I continue to type, eventually I'm down to 6 menu results that have the word projects in it, right? So it's pretty straightforward there. And then we could also do with this search, what's extra powerful is you can search for transactions and profiles. So instead of pulling up my whole project list, if there's a certain one, again, I don't have to go through the menus to go try to find that. Instead, let's say I want to pick on a specific project like a hotel. Obviously, I don't have a menu item called hotel, but if I move over here, you can see I have various transactions and profiles that have the word hotel in it. So a profile would be a thing like a vendor or a contact, but then a transaction in this case would be like a bill. Right. So where I wanted to go next then is to actually look at that project, which these are vendors and bills. So let's actually pull up my project list. And you can see I've gone into the project space. I go into the projects, and this is my full projects list. And I first come in here, it'll give me my full list of projects. There we are. And you can modify the list and make it a little more user-friendly for yourself and hide columns and things like that. But the one I wanted to look at today, this hotel project, is this one right here. It's called Beach Hotels and Condos. So let's go and open this guy up. And so what this looks like in Acumatica is as follows. So this is more or less a screen where you would set up a project, but there's more to it than just identifying how will I build this project. Is it percent of completion? Is it a fixed fee? Is it time and material, right? All that stuff gets identified in here. Who is your project manager, right? But the more basic things that I want to notate in here would be on this tasks menu. This is more or less where you'll see your schedule of values in Acumatica for this project. And so for this specific one, you can see it's got about 16 or so tasks or phases or whatever you want to call it, your schedule of values, your work breakdown structure. And it's to this level that I'm looking to create a revenue budget and also a cost budget, right? And so we have options in Acumatica on how you're going to do that. Given that this is maybe a percent or complete or a progress billing type of project, as you can see here on the middle columns, when I move over to my revenue budget tab, it's not going to be that all built out, right? So if I click on this guy here, it's the same task list that you just saw a moment ago, obviously with a dollar amount for each one of these things. So site work is $1.8 million. Concrete is $8.3 million. However, there's been a change order in here, as you can see, for $150,000, and that gives me a new revised amount. And this does tell me some information from an earned value analysis perspective that we've actually billed all of it so far, except for that change order. That's still in a pending state. We haven't billed the actual change order. So you can see some of that without having to run a bunch of reports, which is nice, right? There's plenty of reports in Acumatica, but you don't have to go far to see that. Now the cost budget looks a little different. If we move over here, you can see that this will be built out even more, right? So you could see that just my first task, which is I think was general requirements or general conditions, you can see that this is broken down more so into labor, various expenses like things like permits, mobilization, insurance, whatever it might be. And then obviously I've got cost codes in here, which is something that you would set up in Acumatica. We can import your cost code list or recommend a more standard one. And it's the same idea, right? So you've got how it's being measured, your unit of measure, your rate, your quantity. And eventually you'll have actuals posted against it. So looking at this line of labor here, I may have budgeted 280 hours, which is what this tells me, but posted against it is 291, right? And then from a budget perspective, that equates to $14,000 of budget, but posted against it is $49,000. So obviously my per hour basis is much higher than I anticipated. But what's nice in here is you can actually start reviewing that again information without going far. So you'll just click this View Transactions guy, and it will show you that drill down pretty quickly. So if I just make this window a little bit bigger, and you can see down below all those entries that posted against this project, right? If we scroll over to the right, you can see the date of these things. And if I scroll over to the right farther, you'll have the rates, and eventually you'll see who put that time in. So this is someone named George Kinlear who works at my company. And there's actually a link back to George's time card. So if I click on that here, we can actually look at George's time card, which is also tracked in Acumatica. So looking at the time card briefly, this is back from 2020 as it seems. And during that week, George put time against 2 different projects with the various cost codes. We've got something called labor item in here, so you can track which hat he wore that day if he's got different roles at our company, and then obviously the time. So they have full drill down capabilities. Closing these windows out, you can also see we've got expenses and so on that are already registered as well. You can view those expenses again by hitting View Transactions. You can get the commitments in Acumatica too. So if I look at this commitments window, you can see that we've creating purchase orders and subcontractor agreements in here. And any one of these things you can click on. We can generate these directly within Acumatica. They're intertwined with the budget themselves, so that you can see in here I've got a PO that's for Karina Kelly Design, and it's for fixtures, if you will. And again, these are all items that are coming off of my cost budget. We can track the activities of the purchase order in here. So if I look at the top right corner, I can click on activities, and you can see that an email was sent to the vendor within Acumatica with that PO attached. And so if I click on that, all that sort of communication is tracked in the ERP, right? So this came from someone here at my company, sent to an address at Karina Kelly Design. And then obviously this is a templatized email. But more importantly, if I look at files here, in that email, you would see a PDF of the PO itself that was attached to the email that they would have received. So the nice part here is, instead of folks sending these things from their desktop client for email or from their Gmail account or whatever, it's sent through Acumatica with their same credentials. And obviously, if that person's no longer with your organization or whatever, you would always see that sort of communication within the ERP. And obviously, you would see it in that respective email program as well. Okay. Just to finish this out, all the rest of the project's costing and expenses and income and all that's tracked in here as well. You can see your invoices in here too. But I do want to point out that in Acumatica, you do get an income statement for the project. So it's a full financial solution, obviously. But then looking at this here, you can see that we've got a budget for income for this project. Our actuals are what we've billed so far to date of 25 million. And then, of course, we've got our budgeted expenses down below. With the change orders, that comes out to 28.8. But again, our actuals posted against it's only 20. And there you can see that our margin to date is about $5.7 million. So we've already looked at a lot of the job costing in Acumatica. That's only part of it, obviously. We've drilled down into it. We've looked at some of the commitments. We can also track the expenses in here too. And so if I pull up something like our expenses here, we looked at time cards already, but if I look at our expenses, we'll look at that just for a second. And if we look at an expense report here, expense claims, to give you an idea what that might look like, we'll open up an expense claim that I already have. And this is something that someone out in the field can record, right? So not only they're recording their time, this fellow here named Max Baker is actually able to record travel expenses, as you can see, some materials and whatever. And these can be entered here on the web browser. They could be entered through the phone. You got all the rates and stuff like that in here as well. And again, if I scroll over to the right, we'll see that it's tied to that same project that we were looking at as well. So the hotel project, cost coded. You could see how it's getting paid. So something like mileage, we owe that money back to the employee. So we can indicate that here. We'll eventually pay that employee back. But if they use their corporate card for some expenses, like on the second line here, again, in this case, it's a little different. We actually want to accrue those expenses in our register for our Chase Visa. We're not paying the employee back per se, but we do need to record it for our reconciliation purposes. Okay, and then lastly with this, you can track pictures and whatnot, as you can take these from the phone. And so this does have a mobile app that you would use with Acumatica. and you would see all those attachments in the platform just the same. If it had any pictures, in this case, you'd click on this little paperclip, and obviously I don't have any here, but I can send a link to my mobile app. And what this does now is it sends my phone. This is a screenshot of my phone here, right? And if I look at the drop down here, I actually got this notification that says tap to attach files to the record. And if I click on that here, it opens up my Acumatica app on my phone, and it actually pulled up directly this expense claim. And I can actually take this little picture here. And there I am taking a live picture on the demo and hitting save. And there you go. Pretty much instantly, it was brought up on the web browser version, as you can tell. And the rest of the platform is available in here as well. As you can see here, this is the mobile app for Acumatica, time and expense projects. The security will rely on the same security that you have on the web browser. So all that gets managed here in the platform. Eventually someone submits this thing. It says pending approval, and then perhaps there's an approval workflow where someone has to approve this before it gets job costed. Last thing I'll say before I move on is obviously this is a financial product. Accounting products. So if you look at the top of the screen, obviously we can see I've got a corporate structure in here, and I've got multiple companies, and they break down into various divisions or branches. It looks like my web browser has a little, I don't know what that is. Let me move that over. There we go. So now you can see my whole corporate structure in here, and obviously I can run financial statements and such for this, right? So if I move over to the finance area in Acumatica, I look at something like this profit and loss statement in here, and we'll go ahead and pick a date. And let's pick something a little earlier, about October. And when I run this report here, you could see obviously this is my P&L, my fiscal P&L in Acumatica. And this might be for my entire organization, but you do have the ability to drill down into your various companies and branches and so on. Okay. And that more or less sums it up for me. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what job costing, financial reporting, even some management like POs and time cards and expense reports might look like inside of Acumatica. That's all I got there, Mark.
Thanks, James. Yeah, we've helped a few organizations select Acumatica for their platform, for their ERP, and it's been great. The biggest thing we've seen is just, like you said, that single source truth from the financial standpoint, really connecting the financial data across the organization, all the way from the person receiving the materials on the job site, all the way through the purchasing department, through the accounting department, then being able to put those back or put the bill against it. And really then helps categorize all of that accounting information as well, then whether it's by branch or making sure that it's to the right GL code, all of that stuff. It just really helps from top to bottom. If anybody has any questions for James, go ahead and toss them in the webinar chat. If not, or as we get those put in, I'm going to go ahead and grab Zach and put him, tap him to show you guys JobTread. JobTread is an awesome platform that focuses on project management and also has some job costing capabilities in it as well that I'm sure Zach will demonstrate. So again, there's a little bit of overlap in these platforms, but that's okay because the platforms that are able to actually talk to each other via their API connections, which again is that connected business side of things. So Zach, go ahead. I'll let you share your screen and you can take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So yeah, very, very similar product as far as some of the functionality, very overlapping. So where I'm at is on a job dashboard. So this is like the homepage for the job. So the tabs up top are for this specific job. The tabs on the left-hand side are going to be for the entire company. So files or anything externally uploaded. This could be your progress pics, blueprints, inspection reports, permits, anything at all. And you can share that with your entire field. So everybody's going to be on the same page, including your subs as well. So we have a financial summary that is actually pulling straight from your budget, a progress bar that is pulling from your schedule so you can see how close to completion you are, then who has access to this job. So you've granted access to your customers. They have their own portal. You can share what you need to share with them, as well as their subs and the suppliers on this job. They're all considered external users. They are free and unlimited, and there's a mobile version for them as well. Your internal employees are going to see the same interface minus the restrictions that you put on them. So if they're not needing to see anything financial related, you can hide that information from them. The center here is your activity feed. So a good analogy is just like your Facebook feed. It's your timeline of what's transpired on this job from start to finish. So anything that happens in JobTread will be timestamped. I can also send messages here. Currently, it's just for my internal roles, but if I wanted to send a message to my client, I can add them in. I can also do at customer if it's husband and wife on this account or multiple investors, or at sub to send all my subs a message, or at all to send everybody a message. They'll receive an email. That email is going to look like this. Your logo and letterhead, whatever email address you log into JobTread is where that email will come through. If they respond to the email, it'll still pull that response into JobTread and also go into your email, or they can click right there and jump into their portal. From there, got a cover photo of the job, action required items, just things to pay attention to, interactive map to get directions to that job site, and knowing weather plays a big factor in construction. We also give you the 7-day forecast for that location. Then anything that you can do on a computer, you can also do on a tablet or a phone. So full functionality, including daily logs for the crews out in the field. It does pull the weather in, even if you go back in time. You also have what's called custom fields. So anything you want your employees to report on a daily basis, you can. So what other trades were there, the electricians, HVAC, so on and so forth. Take pictures or videos with your phone and saves them in JobTread so you don't have to use your camera space. I can also pick and choose which ones to share with my client, or I can share every single one of them. You also have a notifications bell. You'll get notifications on any messages sent to you, any reminders, or if anything's been scheduled for you to complete. The budget's kind of our bread and butter. You have your estimating phase, your job costing, invoicing, and then also your profit and profit variance. Now, the spreadsheet's very customizable. There's tons of other columns that are just giving you different data points. So if you operate on markup rather than margin, I can turn that on and turn margin off. I can create different views. So if I just wanted to have an estimating view, I can have that estimating view. The way you actually build your estimates is with cost items and cost groups. These are cost groups. I have subgroups and subgroups of subgroups up to 5 levels deep. The groups are also templates. So if I pulled in drywall, it shows those line items for me. I can also template the entire project. From there, I just put in my quantities or my measurements, and it works like an Excel spreadsheet with the formulas built in. So if we're removing 300 square feet on this job for the floor, I put that in. Here's my cost per square foot, my cost for all 300, set my margin or markup. Here's my price, here's my profit. You can also change the unit measurement here to whatever you need, update your costs on the fly. So any of these cells, I can come in and edit. You can also send and receive bids from this platform as well. So if you're wanting to bid out a scope of work, just document, bid, select the sub, select what you would like them to bid on. They receive an email, they click that email, and they simply fill out their numbers. You can attach any supporting documents here, like your plans, blueprints. If they have any questions, they can ask you right there. To award that bid, you simply click on the one that's been completed, vendor order, work order for a subcontractor. You have your subcontractor agreement, the price they bid it for, then they sign in date for agreeing to your terms and the price that they bid it for. From there, you can send out your proposal to your customer. Just select everything, create, and send that over. What that's going to look like, it's going to have your logo and letterhead, who prepared it, who it's going to. You have a header. You can template this to say a nice message or put out the scope of work, type it in right here. Then what level of detail is completely up to you. I can hide all those subgroups, or I can show them. I can even show every line item, every quantity, and all the line item pricing as well. My opinion, less is more. I want enough to validate my price point, but not get so granular where they can see that flooring gets 30 cents cheaper at Home Depot. If I'm doing a cost plus, I can just toggle that on. Now it's switched it to the cost with my fees down at the bottom. You can also make your proposal interactive where they can actually pick out the materials. We also handle allowances, so they can come out and pick out what they want. Their total changes down at the bottom. Then you have your contract and a signature down at the bottom. And you can have multiple signatures if needed. From there, you're into the job costing. Your budgeted cost is your cost to complete the job. Committed cost is going to be what you've committed to subs doing the work with work orders and what you've committed to ordering the material through purchase orders. When it's time to pay that sub, those are going to be your bills. So if this sub is done, they send an invoice into the office. Whoever's in charge of accounts receivable and payable clicks the work order it's for, generates the vendor bill in 2 clicks. attaches the sub's invoices right there. This will notify the project manager a bill was created for their job. They verify the sub is done. They mark it approved for payment. You would pay that. It reflects back into JobTread as paid. Then you can use this to operate as your lien release, have the terms and conditions, and have the sub sign off acknowledging he was paid for this scope of work. You can also track employees' time in JobTread. They can clock into just JobTread, into this specific job, or into specific line items within your job. It is also geolocating when they clock in and clock out. You can also collect payment through JobTread as well. A couple of different ways you can do that. If you want to do a percentage base, 25% upfront as your deposit, specific dollar amount, progressive invoicing based off the phases that have been done, down to the line items or percentages. You can also do it based off the cost type. So if you wanted just to invoice for all the material upfront and have that be your deposit, you can. For your cost plus jobs, you can also invoice off of bills and time. So as your employees are clocking in, you're getting invoices from your subs and suppliers. Here's the actual, it just adds your markup or margin to it. Your customers can pay with credit, debit, or ACH straight on that invoice. Then you can also see the total profit on this job and the variance. So you made 20 grand, but we're $2,600 over budget. It breaks it down line by line. So as granular as you build your budgets or your estimates, you can see how you performed on this job. Red means you went over budget. Green means you were on or at budget. We also have a full-on Gantt chart schedule, very similar to your budget, groups or phases, task or individual items within that phase. Type in or build your list. Then it's as simple as drag in and drop it. That should take that long. That should take that long. That's dependent on that. So if that takes longer, it automatically makes that adjustment. When you hit save changes, it'll notify who was affected. I can also turn that off so I just don't send them a ton of notifications. You can also color coordinate your schedule. So at a glance, I can see electricals in yellow, plumbing in blue, whatever the case may be. You can also assign tasks to whoever by simply adding that in. Here's all your employees. Here's your customer. So if an invoice was due after demo, I can have that as a task. Then here's all my subs. You can also see conflicts. So Hector's available, Riley and Vince are already booked. So I can click that and it shows me exactly what Vince is doing and the distance from job to job. So I see he's going to 2 different job sites. So adding a third might be a little too much for that day. So I can see everybody's availability right down here, a week at a time, and I can toggle through the weeks. I can also type out a more detailed scope of work, even do a checklist in here. So for demo and a kitchen remodel, remove appliances, remove countertops, so on and so forth. Attach any supporting documents. And if they have any questions, they can ask that here as well. You can also template these schedules from kitchen remodel to kitchen remodel. I can actually use this same template and make the minor adjustments I need. I can also link this to a personal calendar as well. I can also see each individual's task list. So here's everything I'm assigned to do across all jobs. I can also link that to my calendar, or I can go to the Gantt view and actually see all my projects in one spot. And if I need to see a more breakdown of a single one, here I have that full Gantt chart, and I can even make changes here as well. The best part about JobTread is we are here every step of the way to help you get up and running. We have a help desk right here that gives you a step-by-step guide on how to get started. Tons of articles you can read, tons of how-to videos. I'm not the most tech-savvy guy. I come from new home construction, so learning JobTread for me, I spent 2 hours watching a video and playing around with it, and I felt very comfortable. We also do live trainings every single day, going over different aspects, and they're also all recorded. We also have crash courses for your estimators, project managers, and office admins. These will show everything that they need to know to do their job in JobTread. Anna's the one that trains the live trainings. She actually has her doctorate in education and organizational change management. So she's there to answer all your questions. You're also going to be assigned a customer success manager to help you get this up and running and train you and your team. You have their phone number, email, and the ability to schedule a one-on-one meeting anytime you need. Just pick the date and time. They also all come from construction, so you don't have to spell it out with crayon with us. We're here to help every step of the way. And we also have a support line. So if they're ever on a training with another client, you can call them. It's just dedicated reps taking inbound calls. If you send an email, we'll actually record a custom video walking you through rather than typing it all out. Then the way we actually implement new features is we allow our customers to actually request the functionality that they're needing. Then whatever gets the most votes is what we roll out. So we're constantly improving our software. And we take the user-based approach. We try to keep our price point affordable. So just high level, $199, $20 to add an additional user. That's the month to month. The annual plan saves you 20%. So that's just a brief rundown of JobTread. Thanks for letting me be a part of this, Mark.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah, it's great. JobTread has been a great asset to two organizations that are currently even using Acumatica at the same time, and where Acumatica excels with connecting the accounting side of the business and project budgets and all of that kind of stuff. JobTread augments that with not only the project budget side of things, but the scheduling and Gantt charting capabilities and ability to see who's busy and when has really helped those organizations. So now we've collected all of this data. We've put all the information into Acumatica, into JobTread, all of that stuff. But now we want to do some more advanced reporting, and that's where Brennan and Pernovos comes into play. They've got some really cool power reports, I'll say, the ability to really analyze and put some intelligence behind their reports. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have to offer there, Brennan. Go ahead and share.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I think to your point, what we're seeing now in construction is that there's an incredible number of applications that most contractors are using to run their business. And while it typically does centralize around an ERP, as we're seeing with JobTread and more legacy systems like Autodesk and Procore, project management is becoming more and more critical for people to get dedicated systems in place. But then you've also got estimating tools, timekeeping applications, even CRMs a lot of times that are housing very critical components of your company level data that can oftentimes drill down even to the project level. And what that ultimately ends up meaning is that there's just bits and pieces of information that are going to be scattered across these different data sources. And because Pernovos does focus exclusively on the construction industry, what's nice is that we already have pre-built integrations with systems like Acumatica and most of the major construction business applications that are out there. What we do is we pull those into our cloud-based data warehouse. So that way, instead of you having a bunch of exports into Excel that often look like this, where don't get me wrong, all of the information is in there. But you stare at this long enough, your eyes are going to start rolling in the back of your head. And there's really not a lot of insight that you're going to be able to draw to that. So what Pernovos does is we turn those reports into what we consider construction intelligence or data analytics, to use a more industry agnostic term. Now, I know that analytics can be somewhat of a buzzword in the industry. And I think ultimately where people want to get to is where they can have this prescriptive layer, which is basically analyzing all the variables and data that you're collecting on projects to figure, okay, what is the ideal course of action that I should do to make sure that our product finishes on time and under budget. But unfortunately, it is very much a sequential path to get there in order to build those models, in order to give you those types of intelligent recommendations. What we do is we effectively start with these first two layers. Now, this descriptive one is just telling you in real time exactly what's happening in your business through accurate live data and effective visualizations that can take that raw spreadsheet data that I was showing just a moment ago and really help you to illustrate it in a way that's going to make sense for people who may not be construction financial experts. And the other piece that we do that I think is really unique to the industry is not just telling you what's happening in the business, but giving you some context as to why it might be happening, right? So being able to give you the root cause drill down and confounding info isolation, so that way you can move away from just seeing what has happened, but really getting some of the how and why you actually arrived there, right? Now, typically where this all kind of stems from is going to be the work in progress report. Now, this is probably one of the most critical reports that any contractor is going to use to run their business. And oftentimes what we're seeing is that there's going to be different variations of this that you're going to need both for internal use and then also for other stakeholders, like maybe your surety or bonding company. So what's nice with Pernovos is that it's very simple to customize the layout and pull in different types of KPIs or metrics that might be more relevant for those different stakeholders that you may need to provide this out to. So you can see the visualizations or KPIs that you can drag in are very simple to implement and recreate within there. But typically what this will pull in is things like your total revised contract amount, your earned revenue to date, total bill to date, total over under billings. But then what's nice is that all of these visualizations are dynamic too. So as you're going through that monthly job review process, if you wanted to hone in and only talk about John Cunningham's jobs, you can actually click in on those. And now you're only going to be looking at the jobs that John is actually assigned to within this particular role. Now, again, the WIP is going to be critical for you to do your cost projections. But what we're oftentimes seeing is that if you're just looking at this in an Excel report, then it's just going to be a single snapshot in time. So what Pernovos allows you to do is to filter down and look at it through different close dates or start or end dates, look at it by different geographic regions or clients, just to really hone in on what may or may not be working well for your particular business, right? Now, one of the most common challenges that we see for CFOs or presidents that are trying to produce an accurate work in progress report is getting good information from those project managers that are a little bit closer to the actual job, right? So what's nice about this is you can create an infinite number of drill paths just to go from this macro company level view down into the actual project level, right? So anywhere that you see one of these little arrows, what that represents is a way that you can actually drill into the actual job level view. And here's where the project managers would live without running the risk of them potentially corrupting anything within your ERP or accounting platform, right? So what this will pull in is the exact cost code structure or cost classes that you have set up within the ERP. So there is no double data entry or manual exporting or importing that you need to do. Now, if it's something that is material related, then you'd be able to see at a glance the quantities that are budgeted, the quantities that have been used to date. If it's something that has a labor component, same type of concept, but for hours that are budgeted, hours that have been used to date. And then based on that, it'll automatically calculate your actual labor rate for the job. Now, typically when project managers are doing their forecasts, they don't think about things in terms of financial metrics, right? I think typically because they are operationally focused, they tend to think about things more in terms of man days or crew days or even hourly rates. So in order to update their forecasts, instead of them trying to do some back of napkin math to try to get what the CFO is really looking for, which typically is this cost to complete number, they can choose whatever type of production forecasting method is going to be most intuitive for them, right? So let's take something like crew days. It looks like right here we had an original budget of just one crew day to get this done. But let's say for whatever reason, we're running a little bit behind schedule and we think, no, I think it's going to be closer to 5 days now to get this done. So what that's then going to do is prompt them to select a root cause for that cost overrun. And these could be perfectly valid reasons, right? Maybe there was some sort of equipment failure. Maybe you had poor job site conditions or some instance of scope gap. Whatever that is, we just want to record that reason and say, whatever it is, skid steer didn't start today. And as soon as you press confirm, what that'll do is then update both the projected final cost, the cost to complete, and that completion percentage right there within the platform, right? Now, in order to push this back up to the WIP, you just click this little exclamation point right here. You'll see all the WIP values and you can press update right here. So now instead of that work in progress report being something that you're only able to view monthly, this can now actually be something that you can view on a daily basis and really start to get ahead of issues before they end up snowballing into something that might push you over budget. Now, as you're going through the work in progress, if you start to see something where maybe your project profit has faded, seeing that cost overrun has occurred is one thing, but really being able to drill down into the root cause reasons behind it, that's really where I think management is going to get some better insight into what they could be doing from a process or training standpoint to mitigate that risk on future jobs. So to get that additional detail, you can press the show full report button, and this will give you a complete breakdown of exactly how much money has been gained or lost due to those different root cause reasons, right? So if we look here, and we see, man, we've lost over $1 million due to equipment failure here. When and where did that happen? What type of equipment are we working with that might be deficient? You can drill in right here and you'll see that everything is time and date stamped with all the notes from that project manager. So now you've really got some more contextual information to help drive project outcomes that are going to be positive, as opposed to just seeing something on a spreadsheet and not really knowing what to do with it. So now this is looking at it more so from an individual project level. But what's nice about Pernovos is that we then roll all that up into more company-wide analytics as well. So as PMs are going through and recording all that information, what they'll be able to see, or the management team would, I should say, is a complete breakdown across all their jobs of where they're strongest and where they might have some areas of opportunity. Because as you're going through monthly job review sessions, if we were to use this as an example, you may think that your biggest issue as a company is missing material just because that's happened 11 times. But in reality, if you actually crunch the numbers, that's only cost the team about $69,000. Whereas instances of scope gap, man, if you could get a handle on those and start estimating things more accurately, that's going to have a much bigger impact, since that's cost you over $628,000, right? Now, again, because all this is dynamic and interactive, if we really want to drill in on that and see, okay, is this something that's systemic across our entire organization, or is this something that's just unique to an individual job? We can click that, and now you can see, okay, it's not really an issue with all of our PMs. It's really just something that's isolated to our friend Sandra Bullock right here, right? And now if we click on her, we can see maybe Sandra isn't necessarily leaving things out of scope on every project. It was really just this one job that went off the rails. So now if we want to drill in there, we can see that. And now you're going to get a breakdown of exactly which cost codes led to that scope gap that maybe now you can feed back to your estimating team, and hopefully use that to mitigate some of the risks that you have on future projects. It might be with this customer or the same product type in the moving forward. So now, on top of that, we've also got some additional tools that can help to give insight to things like your project level billings. This is something that we've seen be a big challenge for a lot of PMs, just knowing exactly how much to bill, being able to see what their average days to pay look like, and then being able to see the relationship of job to date costs versus the cashes they receive versus what they're billing, right? A lot of our clients have coined this the money graph. And I think that every project manager wants to reduce their risk on a job as early as possible and try to get things cash flow positive. But I think a lot of times without that visualization of the data, they really don't understand how much risk they end up carrying on the project that could be putting the company in a precarious financial position. So being able to see, okay, how long does it actually take for us to get to the point where this black line is below the green and the green line is below the blue? This is really the model that we would want to shoot for. And I think being able to illustrate that to PMs helps them to wrap their heads around some of the more complicated financial concepts that construction accounting is subject to in a lot of ways. Again, all information that's typically housed somewhere within the ERP, but until you can visualize it and pull it out and help to project some of those forward-looking views, I think it's really hard for both project teams and executives to wrap their head around why that might be fading profit or might see a reduction in cash flow on any particular job. So those are just two of the more common ones we see. Again, Pernovos, compared to a lot of other BI tools out there, because we do have these pre-built integrations, within about 48 hours, you're going to get access to a whole host of different analytics tools and dashboards that can give you insights into different windows of the business without having to go through the manual process of finding a third-party consultant and having to define those requirements and build out each individual dashboard.
Excellent. Thank you, Brennan. Yeah, Pernovos, you guys do a great job with kind of bringing those dashboards to life. Acumatica out of the box and JobTread both have great tools in there, but they're not quite as in-depth and as forward-looking and all of that other stuff that you guys are doing there, which is great. And that's where we can come in, and why we've got these three organizations here is talking through. ShapeConnect can come in and help. Where do all these products fit in? Who uses each of them? The JobTread side of the world is used by the field. Like, they love that platform. They love it. The back office may not be real good with JobTread, but the information can flow from JobTread into Acumatica, and then the back office has access to that information there so that they live in Acumatica. Executive team and people overseeing the jobs can live in Pernovos in the sense of being able to pull some of that information out. So they're not having to go into multiple platforms and look for it. They're able to pull it all together. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Thank you to JobTread and Pernovos and Acumatica / SWK Technologies coming in to help present and show us what some of these modern applications look like. A lot of times applications have this very legacy look, and there's a lot of legacy applications out there, but selecting some of these newer applications that can talk to one another really helps connect the business and put everything together.